Hey, all you awesome people out there. Have a subscriber request to do another showdown between two Tier 10 tank destroyers, the Russian Object 268 and the WZ-113 GFT, which honestly was kind of a little bit of a surprising of a request. I could probably tell you which one of these is better than the other. And I must say, when doing this showdown, we had a lot more people that had the Object 268. The WZ is actually quite a rare tank. A lot less people own it. But I was actually very surprised and impressed with how this showdown turned out. And for those players that know these tanks, it may actually surprise you a little bit too. So we'll go in and talk just a little bit about the differences between these tanks as they're going face to face. So best out of 3 rounds. And when you're looking at both of these tanks, the WZ-113 GFT has slightly worse penetration. It has a little bit worse accuracy. It has 1 degree less of gun depression. It's a bit slower, doesn't have the maneuverability as the Object 268. And the only thing that the WZ really has going for it that is better than the Object 268 is it has more armor. But when you're looking at tanks that have this much penetration, around 370 or so plus, especially when using its premium ammunition, that little bit of extra armor isn't really going to make that big of a difference. Especially when you look at the front of these tanks, the Object 268 has a much more aerodynamic look to it, whereas the WZ is very flat. So very, very interesting. We were able to switch out a lot of different players that were up for the challenge that had the 268 that came into the room, and we tried to give everyone that had a turn. And the same players stayed for all 3 rounds that were in the WZ. We only had enough for a 3v3 for all these 3 rounds. And the WZ has taken the victory on the first round. So I honestly was a bit impressed. A good fight by the subscribers. And huge shout out to those that had joined, helped. Thank you so much. You guys are what makes this channel awesome. And also shout out to Garion once again for helping put together these replays for us. So going into round 2 here on the Mayan ruins, kind of an interesting position to go to, being that the WZ doesn't have the best of gun depression in going up on an area of the map that is very hilly. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. We'll see what the strategy is. Looking for those Object 268s. Looks like a wild one has appeared. Turn around to get a shot. Unfortunate bounce there. Object 268 gets a great pen. Now this WZ could be in a little bit of trouble here. And you can just see because of how aerodynamic, and what a good shot right on the top of that. Trying to utilize this rock as much as possible. Now with the armor that the WZ has, yeah, it may be okay and better against tanks like light, medium tanks, some heavy tanks even when angling, but a tank like an Object 268 that has among some of the best penetration in the game, it's going to really struggle to try and protect itself. So there's that gun depression not quite working in its favor. And surprisingly enough, things are not working out too well for the 268. Able to get a shot there, but the WZs are just too healthy. So we're swapping out more players that are up for the challenge to see how round 3 is looking. But so far, the WZ is winning this showdown. So based on all the stats and comparisons that I've shared, honestly, regardless of how this showdown turns out, I still think the Object 268 is a better tank just because of, like I said, better penetration, slightly better accuracy, 1 extra degree of gun depression, which in a battle does make a difference. And yeah, that better maneuverability also is huge too in getting to those key locations. So Yamato Harbor here on the final round. Gonna find out if this is gonna be a total annihilation. Now, quite interesting, once again, the WZ team taking the flank where there's all the hills and they have worse gun depression, and the Object 268s going more town. Now, that's not a lot of difference in terms of gun depression going from 6 degrees to 7 degrees, but in my opinion, I would play these tanks a little bit more flat groundish, especially the WZ having a little bit less. But so far, getting some pretty good shots. You can just see when that Object 268 looks at these WZs, it's not that difficult to cut right through. They come charging in here. Things are getting pretty serious. I totally forgot about that bike attachment for some tanks. I saw that and I was like, wait, what? And then I just remembered, like, oh yeah, I forgot that was an attachment. Man, an Object 268's taking quite a hit here. Really putting this guy in a bad spot. But once again, all 3 rounds and different players playing the 268s had lost against the WZ. You'll have to let me know what your thoughts are. Hope you guys enjoyed this showdown. This is the Muffin here. You guys stay cool and keep tanking.